Picture this, 1976. You're racing home from school, books hitting the floor, radio dial already turning, and there they are again. The same songs, not once, not twice, but every single day. These weren't songs you chose to listen to. They chose you. They followed you to the grocery store, the roller rink, your cousin's backyard barbecue, your parents' car, your sister's bedroom, that transistor radio under your pillow. Everywhere you turned, these songs were waiting. Whether you loved them or groaned when they started, they became the permanent soundtrack to your childhood in the Bicentennial year. Here are 10 rock songs every kid in 1976 grew up hearing. Not because they were the best, but because they were inescapable. If you remember singing along in the back seat or hearing these blast from every open window on your block, hit that like button and subscribe. Number 10, Shannon by Henry Gross Soft.
No one can even begin to tell.
Melancholy and absolutely inescapable on AM radio. Shannon climbed to number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed on the charts for 17 weeks straight. 17 consecutive weeks of hearing this gentle ballad everywhere. Henry Gross wrote it about Beach Boy Carl Wilson's Irish setter who had drowned. That's right, the song that made millions emotional was about a dog.
Just like the one in a...
But Gross kept the lyrics vague enough that listeners projected their own losses onto it. According to interviews, he wrote it in under 30 minutes at Wilson's house. That raw emotion translated directly to tape with just acoustic guitar, strings, and Gross's haunting voice. For kids in 1976, Shannon played during those quiet moments between the loud hits. You didn't always understand the depth at 8 or 10 years old, but you felt something. That catch in his voice made you stop and just listen. The song sold over 1 million copies, making Gross a one-hit wonder. But it was real, and in a year dominated by production and polish, that honesty cut through. Number 9, Love Rollercoaster by Ohio Players. Funky, wild, and wrapped in playground legend. The moment that scream pierced through the song, kids everywhere stopped. Was it real? Was someone dying in the studio? The rumors swirled for years, turning this funk masterpiece into schoolyard folklore. Love Rollercoaster hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in January 1976. It dominated both pop and R&B charts simultaneously, spending weeks in the top 10. The album, Honey, went platinum with over 1 million copies sold. Here's the truth. Keyboardist Billy Beck later confirmed it was just his voice mimicking a roller coaster. No murder, no tragedy. Just a creative vocal that sounded so real that urban legends built around it for 30 years. But even without the legend, the song was undeniable.
That's all, y'all. Thank you.
That bass line, those horns, that groove made it physically impossible to sit still. It played at roller rinks where kids tried skating to the beat, at school dances where even shy kids found themselves moving. Your parents couldn't resist it either. You'd catch them nodding their heads, tapping the steering wheel. The Ohio Players brought pure energy, and 1976 needed it. Number 8, Afternoon Delight by Starland vocal band Light, breezy, and shockingly inappropriate.
And we know the night is always gonna be here anyway.
When Afternoon Delight hit radio in May 1976, kids sang along without a clue what they were really singing about. Parents shifted uncomfortably, but the melody was too sunny to ban from car radios.
Afternoon Delight.
The song shot to number 1 in July and stayed there for 2 weeks. It spent 17 weeks on the chart, went platinum with over 1 million copies sold, and bizarrely won a Grammy for Best Arrangement for Voices. Bill Danoff and Taffy Nevert wrote it after seeing Afternoon Delight as a menu special at a DC restaurant.
Make a lot of loving for the sun gone down. Thinking of
They thought it was clever wordplay, and they were right. 4 voices blending like butter over acoustic guitars and gentle percussion. But the lyrics? They were celebrating a very specific kind of afternoon activity. Here's what made it work. The delivery masked the content perfectly.
afternoon delight.
The vocals were so sweet, so wholesome sounding that it sailed past program directors and concerned parents. Kids everywhere belted out "Skyrockets in Flight," "Afternoon Delight," without understanding the double meaning. Looking back, it's hilarious how many children sang those words at full volume in living rooms and school talent shows. The fact that it was secretly about something else, that just makes the memory funnier now. Number 7, Fernando by ABBA Sweeping.
Every hour, every minute seemed to last eternally.
Romantic and utterly global in its domination. Fernando hit number 1 in at least 13 countries. In Australia alone, it stayed at number 1 for 14 consecutive weeks. In the United States, it peaked at number 13 but spent 19 weeks on the chart. The single sold over 10 million copies worldwide.
There was something in the air that night, the stars.
Originally a solo song for Anni-Frid Lyngstad in Swedish, when they translated it to English and added Agnetha's harmonies, something magical happened. It transformed into a cinematic experience about old soldiers reminiscing about a battle near the Rio Grande. Kids didn't need to understand the historical context to feel the drama.
Fernando, though we never thought that.
That melody, those harmonies, the way Frida's voice carried such weight, it felt like watching a movie. Producer Michael B. Trito spent weeks perfecting the layers of guitars, percussion that sounded like distant thunder, and vocal arrangements that felt both intimate and epic. For kids in 1976, Fernando represented escape. You'd close your eyes and imagine mountains and rivers and old friends sharing ancient stories. Even if you didn't fully understand what it was about, you understood the feeling. Longing, nostalgia, the bittersweet weight of memory. Number 6, Play That Funky Music by Wild Cherry. Funky, driving, and born from pure survival. Play That Funky Music rocketed to number 1 in October 1976 and stayed there for 3 weeks. 15 weeks in the top 10. 29 weeks on the chart total. The single sold over 2 million copies. The album went platinum. Here's the story. Wild Cherry was a rock band playing clubs in Pittsburgh. One night at the 2001 club, the owner pulled bandleader Rob Parisi aside and said, "You're not giving people what they want. Play that funky music, white boy." That exact phrase stuck with Parisi. He went home and wrote the entire song in one sitting. The lyrics were autobiographical, a rock band told to pivot to funk, doing it, and discovering it was the smartest decision they ever made. That opening bass line is one of the most recognizable intros in music history. 4 notes that immediately transport you back. According to drummer Ron Beatle, they recorded it at Cleveland Recording Company, and producer Robert Kahn knew they had something special.
And just when it hit me, somebody turned around.
When Epic Records heard the demo, they signed Wild Cherry immediately. For kids, this was the song that made everyone move. It didn't matter if you were shy or didn't dance. That bass line demanded participation. The song broke down barriers. Rock kids, funk fans, pop radio, all embraced it. Number 5, Dream On by Aerosmith. Soaring, emotional, and proof that patience pays off.
Every time that I look in the mirror.
Here's something wild. Dream On was first released in June 1973. It peaked at number 59 and essentially disappeared. 3 years later, Columbia Records re-released it. This time, it climbed to number 6 and spent 20 weeks on the chart. A song that failed in 1973 became one of the biggest hits of 1976. It became Aerosmith's first top 10 hit and their breakthrough after years of relentless touring. Steven Tyler wrote it when he was just 21, sitting at his father's Steinway piano in New York. His father was a classical pianist, and that influence shows in the delicate, haunting opening melody. Tyler's voice was revelatory, starting tender and vulnerable, then building until that final chorus, where he hit those impossibly high notes that became his signature. For kids discovering rock in 1976, Dream On wasn't just loud guitars. It was feeling. It was poetry. Tyler's lyrics about time moving too fast and dreams that fade resonated with teenagers feeling that restlessness, that sense of time slipping away.
Half my life's in books, written pages.
The song played everywhere. FM rock stations, AM pop stations, school dances. In bedrooms where kids played air guitar and tried hitting Tyler's high notes and failed and laughed and tried again. It taught audiences that Aerosmith could be more than just loud and rebellious. They could be thoughtful, emotional, vulnerable. And that range made them superstars. Number 4, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover by Paul Simon Clever.
Problem is all inside your head, she said to me. The answer is easy if you take it logically.
Jazzy and endlessly quotable. Paul Simon turned a breakup into a rhythmic masterpiece with a drum pattern that became iconic. The song hit number 1 in February 1976 and stayed there for 3 weeks. 18 weeks on the chart total. Over 1 million copies sold. The genius was drummer Steve Gadd's. Pattern. Those opening bars became legendary. A rhythm so perfect that drummers still study it today.
50 ways to leave your lover.
According to engineer Phil Ramone, they recorded it at CBS Studios in New York. Gadd laid down that drum part in just a few takes, and Simon knew immediately it was the foundation. Kids loved repeating the names. Just slip out the back, Jack. Make a new plan, Stan. It was wordplay at its finest.
Come on, baby. Get yourself free.
Delivered with Simon's signature wit. In school hallways, kids adapted it for homework and tests. The irony wasn't lost on adults. Simon's marriage was ending, and here he was treating breakups like a checklist. There was humor as a coping mechanism, but underneath was real pain.
Boy, Roy, you just listen to me. Hop on the bus, cuz you don't need.
The song came from Still Crazy After All These Years, which won the Grammy for Album of the Year. Paul Simon's solo career was officially thriving. He didn't need Art Garfunkel to create magic. For kids, this played during car rides and grocery trips, and parents would sing along. It wasn't a sad breakup song. It was liberating, almost playful. Simon turned heartbreak into something you could snap your fingers to. Number 3, December 1963. Oh, What a Night by the Four Seasons.
Late December back in 63.
Nostalgic, celebratory, and proof that comebacks can be glorious. The Four Seasons could have faded into oldies obscurity, but instead came roaring back with this disco-tinged hit. December 1963 shot to number 1 in March and stayed there for 3 weeks. 23 weeks on the chart total. The single sold over 10 million copies worldwide. Bob Gaudio originally wrote it about the repeal of Prohibition in December 1933. But lyricist Judy Parker changed the date to 1963 and rewrote it as a song about a magical night of young romance. That shift changed everything. The Four Seasons signature sound got a modern update. disco beat, layered production. But Frankie Valli's falsetto was still there. That voice that defined the 60s. They recorded it at Valli's living room studio in New Jersey. Producer Bob Gaudio knew they had something special when they heard the playback. That "oh, what a night" refrain felt like pure joy captured in 4 words. For kids in 1976, this was their parents' music invading their space. But it was too catchy to dismiss.
Spinning my head around and taking my body under.
It played at school dances next to "play that funky music" and fit right in. The lyrics looked back to the past, but the song felt completely present. Even kids not born in 1963 connected with that feeling. That somewhere in your past was a night so perfect you'd remember it forever. Adults loved it for nostalgia. Kids loved it for the groove. And the Four Seasons loved it because it gave them a second act. Number 2. Don't Go Breaking My Heart by Elton John and Kiki D, playful, jubilant, and pure chemistry.
Baby, you're not that kind.
When Elton John and Kiki D released this duet in June 1976, it became instant. The song hit number 1 in August and stayed there for 4 weeks. 17 weeks on the chart total. In the UK, number 1 for 6 weeks. The single sold over 6 million copies worldwide.
Oh, I think we can make it.
Here's something most don't know. Elton wrote it under a pseudonym, Ann Orson and Carte Blanche. Get it? He wanted to take pressure off himself and write something fun without expectations. That freedom shows in every note. No angst, no drama, just pure joy. It was written as a response to Motown duets of the 60s. Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell. Elton wanted to capture that magic. He chose Kiki D because her voice complemented his without competing. They sounded like best friends having a conversation. They recorded vocals together at Eastern Sound Studios in Toronto, not separately like most duets. You can hear that interaction, the playful back and forth, the way they responded to each other in real time. For kids, this was a song you could sing with a friend. Taking turns on verses, joining together for the chorus. It played at roller rinks where you'd hold hands and glide in circles singing along. The message was simple. Don't hurt me, and I won't hurt you. In a year filled with heavy rock and introspective ballads, that simplicity was refreshing. Sometimes you just needed 3 minutes of pure happiness. Number 1. Silly Love Songs by Wings Light, Defiant, and absolutely the sound of 1976. Paul McCartney had grown tired of critics dismissing his post-Beatles work as too soft, too sentimental. So he wrote Silly Love Songs as a direct response, and it became one of the biggest hits of his entire career. The song hit number 1 in May 1976 and stayed there for 5 weeks. 5 consecutive weeks. 21 weeks on the chart total. Over 1 million copies sold in the US alone. Multi-platinum worldwide. The album Wings at the Speed of Sound went triple platinum, largely because of this single. The irony was delicious. Critics said stop writing love songs, so he wrote a song defending love songs, and it became the biggest hit of the year. According to engineer Phil McDonald, they spent weeks at Abbey Road Studios perfecting the arrangement. That bass line became instantly iconic. McCartney played it himself on his Rickenbacker bass, driving everything forward. McCartney's vocals were confident, almost cocky. He was owning his decision to write about love. What's wrong with that? I'd like to know, 'cause here I go again. That line became an anthem for anyone tired of being told their interests weren't serious enough. For kids, silly love songs played everywhere. Radio every hour, grocery stores, department stores, school dances. It was one of the few songs that got everyone on the floor. The structure was brilliant, starting soft, almost questioning, then building into that massive horn-driven chorus that felt like triumph.
I need to know, 'cause here I go.
The bridge featured those layered I love you harmonies that went on and on. McCartney pushing the point home, celebrating love without apology. Critics called it lightweight and too simple. The public didn't care. They loved it. Because most people just wanted music that made them feel good, that spoke to their lives and hearts. Paul McCartney proved he didn't need to make important protest songs. He could write about love, make it catchy, and dominate the charts. And no critic could argue with that. 10 songs that didn't just play in 1976. They defined it for every kid who lived through it. These were constants. The permanent background music to homework, riding bikes, summer nights that felt endless growing up in the Bicentennial year. They played in your parents' car with windows down, in your siblings' bedroom bleeding through walls, on that transistor radio hidden under your pillow, at the grocery store, the roller rink, school dances, everywhere. Inescapable, permanent. And now, decades later, they're time machines. The moment you hear that opening bass from silly love songs or that scream from Love Rollercoaster, you're transported. You're 12 again. Summer is forever. Which song brings you right back? Not which one you liked best, but which one is burned into your memory so deeply you can't escape it. Which reminds you of your best friend, your first crush, those long summer days? Tell us in the comments. Share your stories. Because that's what keeps these songs alive. Not chart positions or sales figures, but your memories. I read every comment. If this took you back, hit that like button. Subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss the next countdown. More nostalgic deep dives are coming. Until next time, keep the volume high, keep the memories alive, and never stop going back to the songs that made you who you are. Because 1976 wasn't just a year, it was a feeling. And these 10 songs, they're the proof it happened.